Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So this one's called Hobbit Little Library. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's basically, I think these things are like outside of your house. It's one of these things where you leave a book, pick a book, that kind of, it's like this maybe communal thing where people walk by, can drop a book off and grab a book. And it's very sweet because it's a very close cropped photo. And so you see the grass. It looks like a hobbit house. It totally there's the door is kind of circular and it's nice, made out of glass. You can see inside, and there's grass all around. And yeah, so walk us through why this photo?
So I was at this kind of local community kind of arts event selling some books, and we just happened to see this little library. And, little
Hmm.
libraries are kind of popular now. I would love to build one. You can either like purchase one and then register it, and then you get your little library on a map where people can come and find it.
Register
So,
it?
yeah,
What?
there's like littlelibrary.org, and you'll get like a
Oh,
little plaque that you can put on it,
that's
and you'll have your own
awesome.
unique number. So we saw this and we're like, not only is it a little library, it's a Hobbit library. And this is so
Mm-hmm.
amazing. So some people make their own. And just having, like you said, that grass on the top, the colors and everything, it really evokes
Yep.
this sense of fantasy. So I was like, I need to get one of my books and put it in there. And
That's awesome.
I love pulling up those maps and just going around town and dropping off books and taking books and exchanging books. And
Amazing. I
it
love
is
it.
just such a fun little thing to do, and it's also that a way to share the love of reading because it's like I really enjoyed this book. I'm going to leave this, and hopefully someone else will get to enjoy it.
So where in the world are you? I have no I
Oh,
don't know anything about you. So
yeah,
where are you? Like where is these little libraries? Where can they be found?
I'm in Minnesota, so
Minnesota.
they are just kind of all around other people's houses, all around like my community. Like I said, I would love to build one. I really want to build one that's like an R2D2 library
Okay,
because
okay, okay. Yeah.
I mentioned I love
Hilarious.
the Hobbit library, and I think it would just be fun. Some people actually set up this whole like little reading station outside of them. They'll have a bench, they'll have like
Oh,
dog
cute.
treats. Some have
So it's
like
books.
it's just books, and then you can sit with your pet and read. And I think it's just a fun little spirit of community just to get outside. And a lot of people will stay indoors and read, but it's like get outside, enjoy the day. We've had 50-degree weather over here, which is amazing right now because,
Right, right, right.
right now it's
Wait,
still
wait,
a
wait, wait,
little
wait, wait.
chilly.
I'm on the metric. I'm Canadian. 50 degrees is was like 20 degrees Celsius. I have no idea.
I don't know either. Um,
What?
let's just
We
say
suck.
let's just say it's winter going into spring,
Nice.
and we get very cold.
Nice. Okay, well, look, I'm from Montreal originally, and yeah, it's full on. Like, I know
Yeah.
about the winter for sure.
So yeah, I just think it's so fun.
So, there's a really great book by Hélène Cixous, Cixous, and it's
Okay.
called Three Steps on the Ladder of Writing. And she really
Oh.
talks about the sort of the philosophical and very much talks about the deep, profound territory of becoming an author, especially as a woman, right? And
Hmm.
so, with that in the background in my mind, when I start talking to other authors, I'm always curious about, well, how did you fall into writing? Like, what is your life that dropped you in like that into being dedicated to writing books?
Sure. Yeah, that's a really good question because I think also I'll bring this up in the time I grew up. I was a big science fiction fantasy fan. Some of my first movie experiences were like E.T. or Star Wars Return of the Jedi. And for instance, with Return of the Jedi, Princess Leia was out there. She was tough. She could be in the battle with the guys. She wasn't cowering in fear somewhere, needing to be rescued, per se. She was
Hmm.
in there in the thick of it. And then when I would watch subsequent movies, the girls were typically very screamy. Like if you watch the first Batman movie, it's a great example. Vicky Vale screams all the time. It annoyed me
Okay.
to no end. I'm like, I don't even think I can
Right.
watch this movie.
Yeah.
So growing up with that, there weren't many books that had strong female characters or characters that had some depth. Like they were either
Right.
really aggressive to set their place in this, or they were really, as the 90s went on, they were bookish smart. They were that book smart person. They
Okay.
usually had like one character trait that really defined them. I was sitting around watching a movie and I noticed there were two male characters and two females who were kind of the leads. And the two male characters are the ones having all the magical fun, and the
Mm-hmm.
two females are the ones getting them in trouble, turning them in. It's like,
Right.
I got so frustrated. I'm like, you know what? I need to get going on this book. I had this idea
Oh,
percolating,
okay.
and it has four female leads. They're all friends, and they go
Mm-hmm.
on this journey together, and I wanted them to be the ones to tell the jokes, to make mistakes, to do the fun things, to discover more about themselves. I wanted to have those characters out there, um, just because I felt readers needed that. And that's
Okay.
I don't mean to like put down any other works that are out there, like that people have grown up with. I read the
Mm-hmm.
Dragonlance Chronicles, and they had some great female characters in that. But I just really wanted to have more female leads really driving the story, interacting, and really learning and growing themselves. So that was kind of that like kick in the pants I needed to really
Mm-hmm.
finish that first book and really go and seek out a publisher to get this out there, because
Mm.
I just wanted to have those characters for other girls when I was growing up, and I couldn't find them.
Right.
Like on the playground, it was like, oh, hey, I want to be Princess Leia, but I want to be Princess Leia. What other girls are there to
Right.
play in Star Wars? Oh, okay, I'll be Princess Leia's cousin, stuff like that. So,
Many people will talk about, well, I wrote the book that I wish I could have read, I could have found.
hmm
The kind of story I wanted wasn't out there, so I kind of pursued that in a way, discovered it.
yeah.
So, how did that story emerge in your? So, okay, so here's what's really fun about the podcast. This little cluster of people. So for a while, I was getting people around climate change. And then I had one author, and her agent introduced me to a bunch of other authors, and I think you're one of them. And you said you're in Minnesota, and I don't. I'm just like Minnesota, Minnesota. And then just last week, Kelly Florence, I
Yep.
think, is
Yep.
from Minnesota.
Yep. She is.
So you fell into writing, but you wrote the book that you wish you had had as a child, or what as a girl growing up. But was this story in your head for a long time, or was it essentially like you woke up and you said, "Well, that's the story, that's it," and then it was just a question of capturing it?
Yeah, I've had it both ways, to be honest. I was writing a short story for this contest, and all of a sudden I woke up after sleep and I was like, oh my gosh, I had this dream of a human zoo on an alien world. That's what I'm going to write about for this
Okay.
competition. So I've had that happen once, but the
Okay.
idea was kind of percolating for a while. I had the basis, and it kind of focused on wishing wells. It didn't have that Arthurian take to it yet when I'd first
Mm-hmm.
developed it. That came a little later, because I also have this. I love history, especially ancient history. American history doesn't fascinate me so much. Like ancient Egyptian history just fascinates me. And so bringing in some of the women from King Arthur's time, because you get little tidbits
Mm-hmm.
of them, like the Lady of the Lake or Lady Morgan Le Fay, I was like, I want to learn more about them. So
Mm-hmm.
gradually they came into the story. And as I was writing it, so you had mentioned Kelly, um, we have a local writing community. And at the time, I was writing about ancient Egypt. I was writing about King Tut's wife. And I was in the writing group, and I met one of Kelly's friends, who I knew first. I learned about Kelly through her. Her name is Meg. And
Mm-hmm.
she was being published through this publisher based in Houston, Texas. And she's like, "Hey, you should, for your new series, you should contact them. They're a women-driven organization. They're just starting out. They're looking for more authors." So I contacted them and sent them kind of my pitch for my book. They asked
Mm-hmm.
for kind of the manuscript, so I sent it, and they're like, "You know what? I like it, but we need to make these changes." And so I
Mm.
spent a weekend just going through the whole thing, beefing it up and kind of identifying some of the maybe issues they saw in the story that needed more development. And I sent it
Mm-hmm.
back and they're like, "Okay, let's run with it." So
Oh wow, nice.
so I got through the publisher through a friend, and then through that friend, of course, I met Kelly. And yeah, it's like that little interconnectedness that helped me get to this point today where now I have 3 books in that series. So I have a trilogy done about
Okay,
these
nice.
characters in this world. So it's been a great journey that has come about. Sometimes things just need to sit in my head for a while until I really can put it down to paper.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that was with this series, yeah.
Okay, so for somebody who's listening who's not used to writing or the sort of the writing process, how long would you say it takes for you to make a book for your trilogy?
You really have to come up with these kind of habits. You have to really commit yourself. You need to sit down, carve out some time and do it. So my first actual book that I wrote took a year to write. Um,
Mm.
so now, I mean, it's a little bit shorter. So there is this event in November called NaNoWriMo. It's National Novel Writing Month. And your goal is to
Mm.
write a couple thousand words a day. So
Okay.
it's like this serious sprint, and you make, little writing buddies, and sometimes, like with your local communities, if you can find a local writing community, it's huge. It's great.
Oh
They're
wow.
very supportive. They'll have like little sprints where they're like, "Okay, let's
Yeah.
let's write 10 minutes, and then we'll take a break." And so when I would participate in that, of course, I'd get the novel done, but it would just be, like a
Wow.
marathon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then you go through it and you develop it more. So I would say that's kind of cut the time in half, but conversely, you do have to go through the developmental editing process, which is
Yeah, for sure.
it's actually fantastic. It's really helped bring out some of those ideas I had that I didn't quite
Mm-hmm.
hit.
Mm-hmm.
Because let me tell you, I'm not the best at telling jokes. Like, I see the punchline in my head, but I don't
Okay.
communicate it well, and then I start laughing before I even tell the punchline. So it's kind of like that. You have it in your head, but sometimes you don't communicate it as clearly.
Yeah.
So that's what that developmental editing is about, is really bringing everything
Yeah.
forward so readers can connect with it like you do.
Absolutely. Well, I think for anybody who does writing, at some point you have to let go of your ego to feel that when somebody criticizes the writing, you don't feel like, oh, they're criticizing me, like I'm a bad person. No, 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 no. Like the writing is a thing that's independent, and
Hmm.
that actually the first draft is important, but
Yes.
you have to edit. Like it's all editing and it's all refining and all this stuff for sure.
Yeah, you have to be able to take that feedback. And
Hmm.
sometimes it can read a little harsh, but you just have to remember it's there to make your story better. So
Yeah, for sure.
read it and then do what you can with it and develop it. And always remember at the same time it's your novel. If you disagree with
Yeah,
what maybe someone's saying, let them know
yeah.
why and see what else you come up with. So,
Or stay with what you did. Like
yeah,
it's your world, right?
it's my world. So, yeah.
Yes. So, would you like to go on to the next photo?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.